Hey, what's going on, everybody? So, in today's video, I'm going to go over why collections are really only worth 70% to buyers, how you can use that information to fairly negotiate what your collection is actually worth to someone who's potentially buying it, and how you can use this information as well if you're interested in selling on TCG Player or potentially eBay to basically run a successful business. This is my first time doing it or doing a video like this. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's more of like an informational video. I didn't want to just be stuck into the niche of doing pack openings here on YouTube. And I can say thank you for 1,000 subscribers here. I'm going to be looking down at notes I have on the side here just because this is the first time I've kind of done a video formatted like this. So hopefully you all enjoy it. And if you don't, let me know down below. As always, the comments help me improve the videos, help me do things that you guys enjoy. And if you could leave a like or a dislike if you didn't like the video and subscribe, it helps me a lot. There's also a link down below for a free $15 in credit to Whatnot. That's where I do streaming 3 to 4 days a week. I do a combination of Whatnot, TCG Player, eBay, and that's how I run my business. So without any further ado, I kind of made the title a little bit clickbaity, but if you stick around, this is really going to help you avoid mistakes if you're looking to do a business, which I ran into when starting my business. And if not, potentially negotiate for a better value on your collection if you go to sell your collection, and how to do it fairly, like I said, with the person who is buying. So you understand all the fees and all the costs that go into something. So let's go ahead and start it. I'm going to kind of go over everything here. There's 3 main sections. I'll be starting with like seller fees and everything, and then we'll go down from there. So to start things off, I have this paper here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go over the fee schedule for TCG Player. So if you look at the fee schedule here, we have marketplace seller, so 1 through 4. And that's the very first column there. That's where most sellers are going to fall. So the people who are looking to buy your collection that are selling on TCG Player. And how a lot of stores may also value your collections. But most people are going to fall in that section, and that's where you're paying a 10.25% commission fee, which TCG Player recently raised by about 0.1%. And then you're going to pay an additional 2.5% processing on top of an additional 0.3 cents. Now, that additional 0.3 cents is going to be really important when we start to go over the value of singles and the return you're seeing on that. So, first things first, let's go ahead and put that down so you guys took a look there. I'm not going to go over the other parts of the fee schedule just because that's going to apply to different types of sellers. And that's why you may have other sellers offer you much lower values on your collections. Because as you can see, pro non-direct accounts are paying an additional 2.5% on collections, while direct seller pro accounts are also paying an additional 2.5, but reduced by about a 0.25% there on the back end. But for simplicity's sake, I'm going to break it down just based off that marketplace 1 through 4 seller. And I'm also going to provide a link down below, which is a sheet which I use as a calculator, which gives me percent returns as well as dollar returns on the cards there. So it'll kind of help you evaluate. Feel free to use that resource down below. But let me start going into it. And like I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. So first things first, we're going to go over number 1 here, seller fees. So seller fees. So I'm going to go over a couple different things here. First things first, I'm going to give you an example of a couple different cards. So first we're going to start with the penny card. So here's a penny card. That's value of the card there that you're selling on TCG Player. A lot of sellers do sell penny cards, and I will have to say, guys, after you see this, you really got to throw some thanks out to those sellers because I don't know how they do it. I personally don't, just because you'll see after this example. Next, you have up here, let's go, and we're going to jump to a card which is valued at $5 on TCG Player. Now, everything for these examples are going to be priced. We're going to base the value that you're getting off your cards off of TCG Player low, because that's how you're going to get the most liquidity out of a card. If you're asking what liquidity is, it basically just means how fast the card is going to sell for the seller and potentially avoid any type of price erosion. Next up, we're going to jump into a $10 card, and then we're going to jump to what we're going to see from a $20 card, or let's jump to $25 card, and then we'll jump to our $50 card. And I have a very good example here I'm going to give for the $50 card. And the reason I want to show a $50 card is because there's something unique that happens at $50 on TCG Player that a lot of people don't account for. Especially if you are looking to sell, this is a piece of information you'll really want to know. So stick around for that. So here, let's get right into things. So on a dollar card, you're going to see, so what we'll do here is we'll say value in this column. Then we have our, we're going to say percent, or let's say money returned. So this is the money you're going to see after your fees returned. And I hope this is large enough. Like I said, I always appreciate feedback. And then we're going to see percent returned here as well. So most sellers are going to offer around 70% on the majority of cards. And then there's going to be a certain point which they do not offer that 70% on. Usually that's going to end up being somewhere around like $20 or below, or potentially a little bit lower than that. If it is, it really just depends on the seller. And like I said, most sellers actually will reduce it from 70% and even offer less than that. So on a penny card, we're going to assume everything is being given at 70%. So everything is just being bought at that flat 70% because that's what the title of the video was. So money returned on a penny card, assuming you paid, a seventh of a penny for it, you're going to see negative $1 returned on that card. Now, you're going to ask, how are you getting negative $1 if you're selling the card for a penny? Well, you're going to get charged that 30-cent fee from TCG Player. You're going to lose another 12.75% to the TCG Player fees, and you're going to end up paying for the stamp as well as the envelope which you ship that card in. And then if you're team bagging, and if you're putting it in a sleeve, and if you're putting it in a top loader, those are additional costs. And that's what I base these costs off of. So I just added an additional $1, which makes up for what a stamp costs nowadays, which is, as of recently, they raised it once again. It is 0.63 cents, and then you have another, say, about 37 cents in the envelope cost, the piece of paper for the packing slip, and the sleeve there. Now, on a $5 card, assuming you paid 0.7%, you're going to see a return of negative 0.13 cents. So you've lost 13 cents selling a $5 card if you purchased it for 70% of the value. Now, as you can see here, this is a really good example of why businesses cannot offer more than 70% on a card, especially things that are in that lower end tier, because they're a business at the end of the day and they need to make money. Now, one thing to keep in mind, as I go over part 1 of this video, this is a perfect world that I'm giving examples for. This is assuming that people are not losing money to labor, erosion, all those other things, which I'm going to factor in later on. Now, as far as like percent returns, you're going to see 67% of, we're not even going to go over this one here, sorry, the first one, because you're just completely losing money here. Here, you're going to see 67% return on the original cost, which means you're going to net negative 3% as a seller on that $5 card. Now, the next thing we're going to do here, roughly negative 3%. Next thing we're going to do is a $10 card. So on a $10 card, after your TCG Player fees are factored, your shipping, all those costs there, you're going to get a total of 0.73. So you're going to get 73 cents back on that $5. So finally, you're starting to make some money here. You've sold a $10 card. You're seeing 73 cents. You sell $1,000 worth of cards, you're getting 73 bucks in value there. Back into your pocket. Now, 1,000 cards is a lot of cards, so we're going to automatically as well assume that every card being sold here on TCG Player is being sold as a single, and that's because the majority of cards sold on TCG Player are actually sold as singles. I would say roughly 80% of sales are single cards, whereas people will bulk them together later on, especially if you're not part of the Pro program, then that's the case. So on a $10 card, you're going to see a return of 77.2%. So here we've netted 7.2% on value there. Now, on a $25 card, you're going to see more money back here. Of course, we finally hit now the point where we're seeing a net positive in money earned. So on $25, you're going to see a net of $3.31 back on the $25. So assuming you paid 0.7% of the $25 value and you paid all your fees, you're getting $3.31 in your pocket. Of that $3, so that $3.31 in that fee is going to accumulate to be 83.25% of the total value of the card, meaning that we're going to net a positive of 13.25%. Now, that being said, something unique is going to happen here at $50, and I'll explain why. So, as you know, I've been calculating into these returns what shipping costs are. At $50, what we're going to see back from TCG Player is $4 and 23 cents. And you may be thinking, well, we just doubled from $25 to $50. Why are we not seeing double the amount of money back in our pocket, even though we're still paying that 70%? And when you do calculate it, indeed, you're going to see that you actually drop to 78.45% return. And that 78.45% return is going to account to be 8.45% net. Now, the reason for that is because every single order above $50 on TCG Player, so that factors in tax and shipping, is going to require you to provide tracking for the order. And tracking right now through USPS is going to cost you anywhere between $3.70 to about $4.20, depending on where you're shipping in the US. If you're shipping from coast to coast, it's going to run you closer to about that $4 mark. And that's why you get that percent drop off. So actually the highest percent gained is going to be just around $44, which is going to net you roughly around 85%. And you won't see that 85% return on a card again until $200. And that's because you've essentially quadrupled your, actually almost 8 times your shipping costs because of the USPS costs for tracking, just based off of the fact that you have to provide a tracking number on TCG Player. Now, I will say this, if you are looking to sell on TCG Player, do keep in mind that you need to factor in this $4 shipping, because it is going to impact your overall return on investment because of that additional cost. Now, going over this is all, like I said, this is all in a perfect world. This is assuming there is no price erosion. You are not paying anyone to do this. You are just netting everything in your pocket directly. You don't get any return orders. You don't see anyone complaining. You don't see anyone saying that their card isn't quite the expectation of the the condition that they expected it in, and that they'd like a refund on the difference, or they'd like a full refund. So overall, this is saying that you have set up a business which essentially operates within a bubble, and that it doesn't have any type of issue with that. That being said, use this information to your advantage for the time being until we move to part 2 of this. So, part 2. And I hope this isn't a super long video. I actually don't know how long we've gone already, but let's continue. So, part 2 of this is going to be price erosion. Now, price erosion and condition. So, price erosion, I didn't even write erosion, is when your cards lose value as you keep them in your collection over time. And this can be due to a multitude of things. It could just be that the card loses playability. It, for example, like a Path to Exile versus like a Swords to Plowshares, which one operates better. Maybe there's cards that come in and replace those cards from a newer set or something like that. Another thing could be a reprint. Now, the reason I want to bring this up is because whenever you're buying a collection, you have to price in the fact, or a business at least has to price in the fact that this card may see a reprint by Wizards in some time frame. And when that reprint happens, the erosion on the card value could be, could not impact it too much, but it could also be very extreme. And I can give you an example of this. So earlier this year, I purchased a decent sized collection, and it had a bunch of Ramos Dragon Engines and the etched foil from Commander Legends. This was far before Dominaria United was actually being announced, and we were getting Brothers War was being announced, and we got information about those retro artifacts coming in. And in those retro artifacts, we saw a Ramos Dragon Engine. At the time, Ramos Dragon Engine was a $27 card. As you guys can imagine, if you guys play Magic, I don't know if you know what, and I paid 80% for those cards, by the way, because I was newer. I thought like 80%, I'm going to still net some money. I'm doing this just to start my business. I'm not going to factor in my labor. Little did I know, those cards would quickly, I think there were 17 Ramos Dragon Engines in that collection, so you can do the math there, but those eroded all the way down to $7. So I lost roughly about 80% of value on those cards. So as you can see there, you definitely want to try and protect yourself if you're starting a business, and you want to keep in mind that when a business is making an offer to you, they have to factor in that potential price erosion, because for a business to succeed at the end of the day, they need to mitigate risk. Now, the other thing is condition. The condition of your card is going to greatly impact what a business can offer you, and that's because the condition of a card is going to affect the liquidity of a card. Cards that are, I would say, anywhere between MP to damage are obviously going to move much slower. And that's because people just don't purchase MP to HP cards as much as they purchase the LP near mint copies of cards. Now, this is obviously has some caveats, especially when it comes to older cards. And also there's the caveat that as cards do get older, typically condition is going to severely impact the value of a card. So that being said, there's a couple cards here that I really want to outline, and that's old foils. So old foil cards, these are extremely, these are not as sought after if the card is not in great shape, and that's going to greatly impact the value. And you can take a look at this, for example, things out of like the Mirrodin block and earlier Urzas. Those have a severe, like have an extreme foil multiplier, and the condition can actually reduce the price by up to 25% of a card. Just going from near mint to LP to MP, those jumps in between condition. The second thing is just old cards in general. Their condition can greatly impact, depending if they are playable or not. Condition can greatly impact their value. And the third thing here to factor is that newer cards have lesser condition is less of an impact on them. So if you're looking to sell, the condition of a newer card typically does not have as much of an impact, and that's because honestly with WotC's quality control and everything, as we've seen recently, a lot of cards come out of the box LP, and usually LP and near mint copies, their difference in price, the gap in price between them is extremely small. It can be as low as like, I would say 3 to 5%. I'm writing like a fool here, so this is the first time I'm doing a video like this. I got a little bit of stage fright. I'm actually a little bit shy when it comes to being on camera. Okay, now I've gone over reprint potential, the price and condition, and then obviously the fact that you can see a lot of erosion. So keep in mind when a store makes you an offer, those things are being factored into the card. Now, one thing I want to go back to here, and I'll do this at the very end, is going to be as you get into those extreme value cards, what you can do to help either negotiate what you're getting for the card, or negotiate what you're getting for your overall value, or potentially make a reasonable offer as a seller or a buyer. Now, part 3 of all this is labor. Now, assuming you are, you hired some person who's just an extreme champ at packing stuff, we're going to pretend this person is absolutely amazing. They are packing 25 cards, or let's say 30 cards an hour. So 30 orders an hour. This person's knocking it out of the park. We're going to pretend you live here in California as well, and where minimum wage is, you know, I am forgetting right now what minimum wage is, because it in California it changes quite often, but I believe it's $16 here. So $16, we're going to divide that by 10, and we're going to say that is 1.6, and then we're going to divide that by another 3. So that's going to bring us to about, what, 16? It's hard to do math right now. I'm doing some mental gymnastics here. So 45, we'll just go ahead and round. We're going to say 45 cents per package. So that's factoring that we're doing essentially a output of 30 orders per hour. Now, you have to factor when you're paying someone to pack, or if you're even factoring in your own labor, if it's really worth it for you to do this business, that you need to factor in, is it worth it for me to do this, or is it better for me to work a minimum wage job? And if you are not making money off of this business as you would do so, and I'm just factoring in packaging. Now, the real reality of things is that you're going to factor in packaging as a business. You need to factor in that that person has to sit there and audit a collection. They need to verify if it's authentic, if all the cards within it are authentic, if they're fakes or not. They need to list. They need to organize. They need to put that into a collection, or put it however they organize it into boxes, so that when they're ready to sell it, they're able to readily find it. And that's all labor that needs to get factored into this. And I am making this extremely simple by just calculating the fact that someone is just doing packaging. So just for labor, you're factoring an additional 45 cents. In reality, to package an order, like I said, most orders are going to be single cards. You're going to be looking at, like, say, a couple minutes, maybe 1 to 2 minutes if someone's extremely efficient to package an order. And when you factor this in, so at 2 minutes, you're talking about 30 orders per hour. you are calculating 45 cents, for someone here in California. I know California has one of the highest minimum wages, but regardless, I'm giving an extremely simple example because I'm not factoring any of the front end work on this. So that amount of labor needs to be factored into a business's cost when they give a value or an offer on your collection. Now, this sort of falls apart in one scenario, and that scenario is essentially when you break into cards which go above that like $200, $300, $400 mark. Now I'm going to go back to my notes here, and I'm going to give the example, and I'm going to explain why you can use this information, like I said, to help negotiate potentially a better offer for your collection, especially when you evaluate it before walking into the store. So on a $500 card, so we're going to go back to this section here. So on a $500 card, let's bring this up right here. A seller is going to see a return of $82 after fees and shipping. So on a $500 card, we're going to keep this section here separate. That is a return of 86%, 86.4%. Now we're going to count the points because those are going to make a big difference here in those larger cards. And that's going to net a net positive of 16.4%. Now, like I said, as you get into these larger cards, it does not take additional time to package larger cards or anything, or more valuable cards. And because of that, essentially in a couple minutes here, the business is going to net a positive on this this card here, like a pretty decent positive. And that's where you can start to negotiate that 70% if you're someone selling, especially when you break into those higher end cards, and why the offer can be much higher. It takes a lot less time to audit fewer cards. It takes less time to package to sell, and there's less of a headache with everything regarding like just dealing with fewer cards in general. Now, as you move into things that are like $3,000, when you're talking about Power, Mishra's Factories, things like that, let's go ahead and see what we would net as a business on something like that. So at $3,000, we're going to net a positive of $513. And that is going to be a total of 87.1% on the value, which is going to net a positive of 17.1%. Now, as you can see here, this is where you can start to say like, hey, I'm giving you my collection. I'm okay with accepting, 60% on this portion of it, 70% on this portion of it. But I really am uncomfortable giving you this card specifically at this value. And that's where you can negotiate. And if you're a business, you can also negotiate on that. So this information here is really to provide you as a seller, someone who's giving up your collection to maybe, fund something else that you need, to help negotiate a better value for it. And if you're a buyer, to help you understand how you should factor those in and what to do to be successful. So obviously, always keep all these things in mind. I hope you all enjoyed this video. As I said, it was more of like an educational video. I want to say thank you again for 1,000 subscribers. I never expected to get there this fast. And like I said, I just wanted to kind of provide other content aside from just box openings. And if you enjoyed the content, like I said, please let me know down below. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe. And if you didn't enjoy it, go ahead and throw a dislike and provide me some feedback down there. And also, don't forget to use that link for that free $15. It helps support me, and I'll get you a free $15 on Whatnot. But until next time, I'll catch you all later.